I treated mastery like a title deed, a piece of property I earned once, filed away, and owned forever. That is the core failure. The truth is, mastery is a lease, and the rent is daily practice. I am months in arrears, and the eviction notice was served yesterday. A junior engineer asked me to draw the core authentication system on a whiteboard, the one I designed. He stood there, ready to learn. I picked up the marker, and my mind was a perfect, silent void. I waved it away with jargon about solved problems, but I saw the look on his face. It wasn't respect. It was the quiet, clinical pity of a subordinate who has just witnessed a senior's decay. That moment was not a memory lapse. It was a system failure. This video is the audit of that failure and the new doctrine I enacted to reverse it. By the end, you will have the exact protocol I am now using to stop the rot. It is not about motivation. It is about a clear standard and a non-negotiable daily action. The first step is admitting that your feeling of productivity is probably a lie. The foundation is rotting, but the building looks busy. This is the great deception. Your calendar is full of meetings. Your inbox is at zero. You're making decisions, giving feedback, delegating work. You feel productive. You feel essential. But this busyness is the perfect camouflage for incompetence. It allows you to feel like a practitioner while avoiding the one thing that proves you are one: execution. So here is the diagnostic question. When was the last time you built something from a blank page? When did you last perform the core, foundational skill of your craft, under pressure, from pure memory, with no help? If you have to search for the answer, the decay has already begun. You have become a critic, a historian of your own competence. My moment of truth at that whiteboard was a choice. In that silent void where the diagram was supposed to be, I could either admit the failure or deploy the shield. I chose the shield. I said our documentation existed for a reason. I said our time was better spent on forward-looking challenges. I tried to sound like a seasoned executive, prioritizing the strategic over the tactical. But he knew. And I knew that he knew. That junior's gaze was a mirror, and it showed me exactly what I had become: a hollow authority, sustained only by a reputation I could no longer defend with present-day performance. The title on my business card was a record of past achievements, not a guarantee of current capability. Let's be clear about what is happening in the brain when this decay sets in. This is not a moral failure, it is a biological process. Your brain is ruthlessly efficient. It physically prunes the neural pathways you don't use. It clears the cache of skills you only talk about to make room for the skills you actually perform. And what do you perform every day? Answering email, attending meetings, switching context every 3 minutes. You have spent thousands of hours training your brain to be an expert at shallow, reactive work. The pathways for deep, focused creation have atrophied. They haven't just been forgotten, they have been systematically dismantled by your daily habits. The pressure of that junior's observation was not the cause of my failure. It was the diagnostic. It just sent a signal down a wire that had already been cut. This is the hidden trap of career progression. You climb the ladder, and every rung takes you one step further away from the tools. You begin managing the work instead of doing the work. You tell yourself this is growth, that you're operating at a higher level, but you have confused authority with ability. Managing a skill is not a higher form of that skill. It is a completely different skill. And by practicing only the new skill of management, you are actively starving the old one, the one your entire career, your entire authority is built upon. You become the famous restaurant owner who hasn't cooked a meal in 10 years. You can critique every plate that leaves the kitchen, but you would burn the place down if you had to work a single station during the dinner rush. Your ego is the primary obstacle to seeing this truth. The ego recoils from this assessment because it is a direct threat to its status. The ego is the disease. It's the voice that whispers that you're too important now for the basic work. It's the voice that insists that reviewing is the same as doing, that strategy is more valuable than execution. It will protect your pride right up to the moment of your public humiliation, And even then, it will look for someone else to blame. It will tell you the junior's question was unfair, that the environment was too high pressure, that nobody could be expected to remember such details off the cuff. These are all lies designed to protect you from the one truth that can save you. You are out of practice. Therefore, a new doctrine is enacted. The old one, based on the fantasy of permanent ownership, has failed. The new one is built on a single, non-negotiable principle: the mastery lease. Mastery is not owned, it is rented. The rent is paid through daily, deliberate practice. To stop paying is to begin the eviction process. The first payment under this new lease is due every single morning, before the world has a chance to offer you a place to hide. The protocol is called the whiteboard gauntlet. The first 30 minutes of every day are now dedicated to this gauntlet. This is not optional. This is not for when you feel like it. This is the cost of staying competent. It happens before email. It happens before Slack. It happens before the day's emergencies can provide a convenient excuse to prioritize the urgent over the important. The protocol is brutally simple. Select one core mechanic of your craft, one algorithm, one system design, one persuasive framework, and build it from a blank slate, by hand, from memory. Stand at a whiteboard with a single marker and recreate it from zero. The first few days of this are agonizing. The humiliation is private and it is absolute. That is the point. You must face the decay in private so you are never forced to face it in public again. The whiteboard does not lie. It does not care about your job title or your past successes. It only reflects what you can do, right now, in this moment. This is not about reviewing notes or reading documentation. That is the passive consumption of a historian. This is about active, blank slate reconstruction. You are forcing your brain to rebuild the atrophied pathways, to recache the essential sequences. You are not a student studying a map. You are the cartographer, forced to draw it again from memory. If you believe this does not apply to you, then run this simple 5-day audit. Draw 2 columns on a piece of paper. Label one execution mode and the other review mode. In the execution column, log every minute you spend hands-on, creating the substance of your work. Writing code, designing a layout, building a financial model, writing a first draft. In the review column, log every minute spent on everything else: meetings, emails, planning, managing, critiquing, delegating. Be brutally honest. At the end of the week, look at the totals. If your review mode hours dwarf your execution mode hours by a factor of 5 to 1, 10 to 1, or more, then you are in competence arrears. Your brain is not being trained to do your job. It is being trained to manage the memory of your job. This rewiring is what makes the whiteboard gauntlet so difficult at first. Your brain, now optimized for distraction, will resist this kind of deep, focused work. It will crave a notification. It will invent an urgent email you must answer. It will tell you this is an inefficient use of your time. Your ego will tell you this is beneath you. It will say you have a team for this now. It will insist that your time is more valuable in a strategy meeting. You must recognize this resistance for what it is: the death throes of a bad habit. The truth is, your time is most valuable when you are sharpening the one tool that gives you any right to be in that strategy meeting in the first place. Without that edge, your leadership is a performance. You are steering a ship with a map from a previous century. The new execution standard is not correctness. This is the most important rule of the new doctrine, and it is the one that will cause the most pain. A correct answer pulled from a struggling, hesitant memory is a failure. If you stand at the whiteboard and you have to pause, backtrack, erase, and say, "Wait, no, that's not right," you have failed the test for that day. Even if you eventually arrive at the right solution, that hesitation is the signal of foundation rot. It proves the knowledge is not integrated. It is a fragile artifact you have to carefully retrieve from a dusty corner of your mind. And under pressure, that retrieval will fail. Success is not correctness. Success is fluency. Fluency is the ability to execute the entire sequence flawlessly, while explaining the why behind each step, without a single pause. It is the seamless, automatic flow from one logical step to the next. It's the difference between a person who knows the directions to a place and a person who has walked the path so many times they no longer think about the turns. When you are fluent, you are not recalling information. The information is flowing through you. You are not trying to remember the answer. You have become the answer. This is the only standard that matters. It is a high bar, and it is supposed to be. It is the difference between knowing the path and being the path. This standard of fluency has a powerful side effect. It restores your speed and clarity of thought. When a core skill is fluent, it consumes almost no cognitive load. It's like breathing. This frees up your entire mental bandwidth to focus on the truly hard parts of the problem. The novel challenges, the creative leaps, the strategic connections. A mind struggling with fundamentals has no energy left for innovation. It is trapped in a cycle of basic recall, fighting simply to stay afloat. Fluency is what gives you the power to see the whole system, because you are no longer lost in the components. The cost of ignoring this is a slow fade into irrelevance. You will become a living monument to your past achievements. You will be the person in the meeting who always starts a sentence with, "Well, back when I built the first version." You will be a historian, not a practitioner. The respect you get from your team will slowly curdle. Open deference will be replaced by polite patience. That patience will be replaced by the quiet choreography of people working around you. They will stop asking for your technical opinion because they know it is rooted in a past they no longer inhabit. They will come to you for budget sign-offs, but the real creation will happen in rooms you are not invited to. This is not a malicious act on their part. It is a practical one. They need to solve today's problems with today's fluency, and you have become a bottleneck of nostalgia. The final stage is a deep, corrosive self-deception. You will tell yourself you are leading, mentoring, providing vision. But what you are really doing is masking your decay with the vocabulary of leadership. You are an empty suit, and the smartest people in the room, especially the juniors, with their clear, unforgiving eyes, have known it for a long time. So the protocol is simple. It requires a whiteboard, a marker, and 30 minutes of your undivided attention. That is the price of rent. First, choose your subject. Pick one fundamental component of your craft. Not the most obscure, not the most complex. A load-bearing wall of your skill set. For a programmer, it might be a sorting algorithm or the OAuth 2.0 flow. For a designer, the principles of a grid system. For a writer, the structure of a persuasive argument. Something you believe you already own. Second, execute from a blank slate. Stand up. No phone, no computer, no books. Just you and the empty surface. As you draw or write, speak it aloud. Explain each step as if you were teaching it to that junior engineer. First, I establish the base case, because without it, the recursion would run infinitely. Next, I partition the array around a pivot, because this reduces the problem space exponentially. This act of simultaneous execution and narration is critical. It forces a level of clarity that silent practice cannot. It exposes every single gap in your understanding. If you pause, if you hesitate, you have found a weak spot. That is not a failure. That is a gift. It is a precise coordinate for where you must begin your repairs. Do not stop when you get it right once. That is the amateur's mistake. The goal is not to prove you can do it. The goal is to get to a state where you cannot do it wrong. To practice it until the sequence is so deeply encoded that it becomes an automatic, fluent reflex, like signing your own name. This is the difference between passing a test and mastering a skill. One is a performance. The other is an identity. The choice is now yours. You can continue to believe in the fantasy of permanent ownership. You can continue to mask your decay with the appearance of productivity. You can continue to manage the legacy of a person you used to be. Or you can accept the terms of the mastery lease. You can choose to pay the daily rent. You can start the hard work of reconstruction. Tomorrow morning, before you open a single email, before you check a single notification, pick the one skill you believe you truly own, the one you are most proud of. Take it to a blank piece of paper. See if you can build it from zero, explaining every step without a single pause. See if you are a tenant in good standing, or if the eviction notice is already on your door. The audit begins now.